Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going deep on the World Bank's new Business Ready 2024 report.
Oh, yeah, this was really interesting.
It is. I know our listeners are really keen to understand what makes a country business ready these days.
Absolutely.
And this report really seems to offer a fresh perspective.
It does. It really does.
So we're ditching those old doing business reports and diving headfirst into Be Ready 2024.
Good riddance to those old reports.
Right. And trust me, folks, there are some real surprises in this report.
Yeah, you're telling me? This report, Be Ready for short, really shakes things up.
I'm ready to be shaken.
It goes way beyond just counting regulations.
Oh, so what's it all about then?
It focuses on three major pillars: regulatory framework, public services, and operational efficiency.
Okay, those sound pretty official. Break those down for me like in plain English.
Sure. Imagine the regulatory framework as the rule book for doing business in a country.
Okay, the rule book.
It covers all the laws and procedures businesses need to navigate.
Got
Then you have public services. Think digital tools, infrastructure, how transparent information is.
I see.
Basically, all the support systems that help businesses use that rule book effectively.
So a good set of rules is only half the battle.
Yeah,
You need the tools and the support to put those rules into practice.
exactly.
What about that third pillar, operational efficiency? That sounds like getting things done in the real world.
Exactly. This one gets to the heart of the real-world experience.
I like it.
How smoothly can businesses actually comply with those rules and use those public services? It's about cutting through the red tape and measuring how things work on the ground.
It's like having the best recipe in the world, but a kitchen that's a total disaster.
I like that.
Great ingredients won't help if you can't actually use them.
Nope.
So Be Ready uses these three pillars to assess 50 economies worldwide.
That's right.
They look at 10 key topics that impact a company's entire life cycle.
Hmm.
Everything from starting up to dealing with
It
insolvency.
will comprehend it?
It is, and what's really cool is that it's not just about making things easier for giant corporations.
Definitely not.
Be Ready aims to understand how a positive business environment benefits everyone.
Workers, consumers,
Our businesses.
even the environment.
It's a big shift from the old way of thinking. Okay, so you mentioned surprises earlier. What kind of unexpected things did you find?
Well, one of the biggest is that being a wealthy nation doesn't automatically mean you're business ready.
Really?
The report highlights some fascinating examples of developing economies punching above their weight.
So it's not just about how much money a country has.
Not at all.
Interesting. Give me an example.
Rwanda, for instance, might not be the first country you think of as an economic powerhouse,
Yeah, not really.
but they rank incredibly high in public services and operational efficiency.
Wow.
They even outperform many high-income countries.
Okay, that's impressive. What's their secret?
They've made significant investments in areas like digital infrastructure,
Okay.
and they've streamlined business registration processes.
Makes sense.
They've also focused on building a transparent and efficient legal framework.
So they're really covering all the bases.
They are.
Yeah.
And it's paid off big time. They've really boosted investor confidence.
So it's not just about throwing money at the problem.
No.
It's about strategic investments and smart policy choices.
Got it.
Are there any other underdog champions we should know about?
Absolutely. Colombia is another one that's really shaking things up.
Colombia. Interesting. What are they doing right?
They've made huge strides in both regulatory framework and public services, earning impressive scores in both areas.
So they're hitting 2 out of 3 pillars right out of the gate.
They are. It's really impressive.
I'm sensing a theme here. Progress is possible for any country, regardless of income level.
I think you're right.
It's all about getting those 3 pillars in sync.
Exactly.
I'm guessing, though, that the report doesn't just paint a rosy picture, right?
Yeah.
There must be some areas where countries are falling short.
You're right. There are definitely some challenges.
What are some of the biggest hurdles that countries face in becoming truly business ready?
Well, one of the things the report points out is this consistent challenge. They call it the public services gap.
A public services gap. Okay, that sounds intriguing. Tell me more about that.
It means many countries are much better at creating good regulations than they are at actually providing the public services necessary to make those regulations work in practice.
So it's like building a beautiful bridge, but forgetting to connect it to the roads on either side.
Yeah, exactly. It looks impressive, but it's not actually very useful.
So it's not enough to just have good intentions.
No, not at all.
You need the infrastructure and support systems to make those intentions a reality.
You need to actually put those good ideas into action.
Absolutely. Do you have any examples of what this gap looks like in the real world?
Sure, take online tax portals, for example.
Okay, a lot of countries have those now, right?
The report found that 92% of economies have online tax portals.
92%. That's a lot.
Sounds great, right?
Yeah.
Easier for everyone. But here's the catch.
What's the catch?
Only a tiny 4% offer user-friendly electronic tools to help people actually navigate those portals.
Oh, no. So you might be able to file your taxes online,
Right.
but if you're completely lost in a sea of complex forms and technical jargon, it's no better than the old paper-based system.
You got it. That's the essence of the public services gap.
It seems like such a missed opportunity.
It really is.
So this gap is all about the need for countries to focus not just on crafting good regulations,
Right.
but also on providing the practical support systems needed to implement them effectively.
Exactly. It's about making those good intentions a reality for businesses and citizens alike.
It sounds like this public services gap adds a whole new layer of complexity to the business landscape.
It really does.
It seems like we need to look beyond just the rules themselves and consider the entire ecosystem
The whole picture.
that supports businesses or hinders them.
You're absolutely right. And that's what makes Be Ready such a valuable tool.
I can see that.
It helps us understand those nuances and move beyond simplistic assumptions about what it really means to be business ready.
So we've got these three pillars, some surprising winners, and a concerning public services gap.
Yep.
Now, before we get into the nitty-gritty of what makes each of these economies tick, let's zoom in on a couple of those 10 topics Be Ready explores.
Sounds good.
Now, I know you're particularly interested in international trade and market competition, so let's start with trade. What are some of the biggest hurdles businesses face when trying to operate across borders?
Well, the report really emphasizes just how much the cost of trading internationally can drag businesses down,
Yeah, it's a big deal.
especially for businesses in developing economies.
Right.
We're talking inefficient customs procedures, lack of coordination between agencies,
Makes sense.
and even just poor trade infrastructure.
Oh, yeah, those roads and ports and all that.
Exactly. All of that can add a hefty 20% or more to the cost of goods traded across borders.
20%. That's a huge hidden cost for businesses.
It is. It really makes it hard to compete on a global scale when you've got that kind of extra expense.
It's like trying to win a race with a lead weight in your shoe. But the report also highlights some countries that are doing trade really well.
They are. There are some real success stories in here.
So what are they doing differently? What's their secret sauce?
A lot of these high-performing countries have gone all in on digital solutions.
Oh, interesting. Like what kinds of digital solutions?
Think electronic single-window systems for customs clearance.
Okay, I've heard of those.
Those systems can drastically cut down on paperwork and processing times.
So less time spent waiting for things to move through the system.
Exactly. You're cutting down on delays and unnecessary costs.
So it's more efficient and saves money in the long run.
Yeah, and it reduces opportunities for corruption, too.
That's a big one.
A great example is Singapore.
Singapore, they always seem to be ahead of the curve.
They consistently rank at the top for international trade.
What are they doing specifically?
They've completely digitized their customs processes. Wow, so everything's electronic.
Pretty much. Businesses submit all the necessary documents online,
Okay.
and they can track their shipments in real time.
So it's like having a GPS for your cargo.
Uh-huh. Yeah, exactly. You always know where your stuff is and when it's going to arrive.
That must be so reassuring for businesses. No more wondering where your shipment is lost at sea.
Right. It takes so much stress and uncertainty out of the process.
Okay, but all that technology, all those systems, wouldn't that be incredibly expensive to set up?
You might think so, but actually one of the key takeaways here is that these digital systems can actually save money
Oh, really?
by making everything so much more efficient.
So you're actually saving money in the long run by investing in these systems up front.
Exactly. You're cutting down on all that paperwork, all those delays, and you're reducing the opportunities for things to go wrong.
So it's a win-win.
And here's the best part.
What's that?
This isn't just about helping out those huge multinational corporations.
Right. It's got to benefit everyone. Streamlining trade also opens up opportunities for small businesses to participate in the global economy.
So a rising tide lifts all boats.
Exactly. Easier trade means more opportunities for small businesses to grow.
Which means more competition.
Right. And ultimately, that can lead to better choices and lower prices for consumers.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Let's shift gears now and talk about market competition.
Okay, let's do it.
What were some of the things that stood out to you in Be Ready's analysis of market competition?
One thing that really surprised me was that even some of the wealthiest countries struggle with creating a truly level playing field.
Oh, really? I would thought that would be a given in those wealthier economies.
You'd think so, right? But the report found that things like anti-competitive practices, weak intellectual property rights, and limited access to technology transfer are actually holding back innovation in a lot of places.
It sounds like some of those businesses are stuck in a rut.
Yeah, kind of just going through the motions instead
Yeah.
of really pushing the boundaries.
So it's not just a developing economy issue, it's something that even richer countries need to pay attention to.
Absolutely. Fostering competition needs to be an ongoing effort, no matter how developed your economy is.
So the report highlights the problem, but it also points to countries that are doing a great job fostering competition. What's their secret? How are they making it work?
Well, one of the biggest factors is having strong antitrust laws. And this is key, the resources to actually enforce them.
So it's not enough to just have the laws on the books.
Right.
You have to actually put them into practice.
Exactly. We're talking clear rules against things like price fixing, bid rigging, and
Oh,
monopolies.
those sneaky tactics.
And you need agencies that have real teeth to investigate and punish violations.
So there are consequences for bad behavior.
Absolutely. That way everyone knows they have to play by the rules.
It creates a fairer system for everyone.
But strong enforcement is only part of the story.
What else is there?
You also need to actively encourage businesses to innovate.
Oh, yeah. That's essential for a thriving economy.
It is. And that goes beyond just protecting intellectual property.
So what are some of the ways countries can encourage businesses to bring new ideas to the table?
One big thing is offering incentives like tax breaks for research and development spending.
Makes sense. That puts money back in their pockets to invest in new things.
Right. Or grants specifically targeted at early stage startups.
So it's about giving them the resources they need to get those new ideas off the ground.
It's not just about handing out money, though.
It's about creating a culture where businesses feel comfortable taking risks and trying out new things.
Exactly. You want to foster a culture of innovation and creativity.
I love that. Creating a system where risk-taking is rewarded and new ideas are celebrated.
That's what leads to real progress and economic growth.
Are there any countries that are doing a particularly good job of striking that balance between regulation and innovation?
Estonia is a really interesting example.
Estonia, I've heard they're doing some cool things with tech.
They are. They've really embraced the digital economy and leveraged technology to create a highly competitive market.
How so?
For example, they have this e-residency program that allows entrepreneurs from anywhere in the world to establish and run a business in Estonia completely online.
So you can start a business in Estonia without even setting foot in the country.
Pretty much. It's a brilliant way to attract talent and investment from all over the globe.
That's amazing. They're really thinking outside the box.
They are. It's a great example of how forward-thinking policies can create a ripple effect across the whole economy.
So it seems like whether we're talking about international trade or market competition, the message is clear. It's not just about having the right rules. It's about having the infrastructure, the technology, and the mindset to make those rules work in the real world.
You're absolutely right. It all comes back to those three pillars of Be Ready.
Regulatory framework, public services, operational efficiency.
Exactly. It's not enough to have a great regulatory framework if you don't also have strong public services and operational efficiency to support it.
It's all connected.
It is. It's about creating a whole ecosystem where businesses have the tools and resources they need to thrive.
I like that, an ecosystem for success.
Now, you mentioned earlier that Be Ready goes deeper than just looking at regulations.
Yeah, it's about the bigger picture.
It also explores how those regulations impact both businesses and the broader society.
That's where those concepts of firm flexibility and social benefits come in, right? Tell me more about those.
Absolutely. Think of firm flexibility as how easy and affordable it is for businesses to operate within a country's rules and regulations.
So the smoother the process, the better.
Right. Regulations that minimize costs and red tape definitely contribute to greater firm flexibility.
Got it. So what about social benefits?
Well, sometimes rules might be a bit more demanding for individual businesses,
Okay.
but those rules can actually create positive ripple effects that benefit society as a whole.
Like what kinds of rules?
Things like strong environmental protections, good worker safety standards, robust consumer rights.
I see. So those are the social benefits.
Exactly. Those kinds of regulations might require businesses to invest more upfront
Okay.
or adjust their practices a bit.
But ultimately, they contribute to a healthier, fairer, and more sustainable society for everyone.
You got it. It's about making sure that economic growth benefits everyone, not just a select few.
That makes a lot of sense. It sounds like finding the right balance between firm flexibility and social benefits can be tricky.
It definitely can be. It's a bit like walking a tightrope.
So how does Be Ready help us navigate that complexity?
Well, one of the most insightful things about Be Ready is that it scores countries based on both of these
Oh,
perspectives.
that's interesting.
It recognizes that a truly successful economy isn't just about maximizing GDP.
It's about more than just the bottom line.
Exactly. It's also about creating a system where businesses can flourish while also contributing to a more equitable and sustainable future.
So it's a more holistic view of economic success.
Precisely. It's about creating shared prosperity and a sustainable future, not just short-term gains.
So we're really seeing how Be Ready goes beyond simply checking off boxes on regulations.
It really does.
It looks at how those regulations actually play out in the real world.
Right, both for businesses and for society as a whole.
It's refreshing to see a report that acknowledges that complexity.
It is. It's really a more nuanced way of looking at things.
And that brings us back to those two concepts we touched on earlier, firm flexibility and social benefits. Can you remind us again how those two ideas work together?
Okay, so firm flexibility is all about how easily and affordably businesses can operate within a country's rules,
Okay, the easier the better, right?
basically.
Yeah.
The less red tape, the lower the costs, the more firm flexibility businesses have.
Gotcha. So what about those social benefits? How do those fit in?
Well, sometimes regulations can be a bit more demanding on individual businesses,
Okay.
but they end up creating positive ripple effects that benefit the whole society.
Like what kinds of regulations are we talking about here?
Take things like strong environmental protection laws, robust consumer rights, good worker safety standards.
Ah, I see. So those are the social benefits.
Exactly. Those might require businesses to invest a little more upfront
Okay.
or make some adjustments to their operations.
But in the long run, they contribute to a healthier, fairer, and more sustainable world.
That's the idea. It's about creating an economy that works for everyone, not just a select few.
It sounds like finding that sweet spot between firm flexibility and social benefits is a delicate balancing act.
It definitely can be. It's a constant challenge for policymakers.
So how does Be Ready help us understand that complexity?
What's really insightful about this report is that it actually scores countries based on both firm flexibility and social benefits.
Ah, that's interesting.
It's not just about making things easy for businesses.
There's more to it than that.
Exactly. It's also about creating a system where businesses can thrive while also contributing to a more equitable and sustainable future.
So it's a much more holistic view of economic success.
Precisely. It's not just about maximizing GDP, it's about creating shared prosperity that lasts.
This report really challenges us to think differently about what it means to be business ready, doesn't it?
It definitely does.
It's not just about cutting red tape.
It's about so much more than that.
It's about creating a system that supports both businesses and the people those businesses are meant to serve.
That's exactly what Be Ready is all about. It's a really valuable tool for anyone trying to make sense of the global business landscape.
Absolutely. So for someone like me who's trying to wrap my head around all these complex global trends, what's the key takeaway from all of this? What's the one thing our listeners should really remember?
I think the most important thing is that we have to move beyond those simple good versus bad rankings.
Don't just look at the score.
Exactly. We need to dig into the details, look at the nuances of each country's situation.
Be Ready gives us the tools to do that.
It does. It encourages us to ask those critical questions.
Like what?
Like if a country has a high score on regulatory framework, but a low score on public services, what does that actually mean?
Yeah, is there a disconnect there?
Right. Or if a country prioritizes firm flexibility over social benefits, what are the long-term implications of that? Are they sacrificing sustainability for short-term gains?
It's about understanding the trade-offs, the challenges, and the opportunities that are unique to each country.
Precisely. And I think ultimately Be Ready helps us move beyond that outdated idea that less regulation is always better.
It's more nuanced than that.
It is. Sometimes a bit of well-designed regulation, when it's paired with strong public services and efficient implementation, can actually create a much better environment for everyone.
It's not about less regulation, it's about smarter regulation.
Exactly. It's about creating an economy that's dynamic, innovative, and equitable.
This deep dive has really been an eye-opener. I'm sure our listeners are feeling as inspired as I am, but This is just the tip of the iceberg.
It really is. There's so much more to explore.
We've only scratched the surface of what Be Ready has to offer.
I encourage everyone to check out the full report on the World Bank's website.
There's a ton of great information in there.
It's a treasure trove of insights and data for anyone who's interested in understanding the complexities of global business.
And remember, folks, this isn't just for policymakers and economists.
It's for everyone.
Understanding the business environment is important for anyone who wants to make informed decisions about where to invest, where to work, or even where to live.
It affects us all in one way or another.
Well, this has been a fantastic deep dive. Thanks so much for sharing your expertise with us.
It's been my pleasure.
For all of you listening out there, thanks for joining us on this journey of discovery. Until next time, keep those brains buzzing.